Am I the a-hole for giving a very silly ugly smile in meetings after my boss said I should smile more? I work in a tech consulting job, I'm the only woman on the team. And my boss told me I was coming off harsh with clients and should be more upbeat and smile more. It felt ick. I right away texted my group chat of coworkers, without the management in it, asking has boss man ever told any of you guys to smile more? It was an immediate round of no's, and a couple of my coworkers asked if he said that to me and pointed out the double standard. A few of my coworkers joke that some of the clients we have right now don't give them anything to smile about. So then I asked if any of them had ever been called harsh, and it was again all no's. I told them that the boss had told me to smile more, and one of my coworkers sent me a picture of a girl pulling a silly face with a weird pinched smile and bug-out eyes saying, well, what boss man says, he gets. I thought that was hilarious and decided to actually do it. Anyway, I started smiling more and more around my boss, but also a bit stupidly. Just keeping my mouth pinched tensely, gums on display, and purposely pulling my chin back towards my neck so I'd get a double chin. I never did it in front of actual clients, just my boss and coworkers who were in on the joke. And my boss kept looking uncomfortable when I did. He asked me at a meeting about a week in what that face I was pulling was. I said, what face? He said, that one, just a second ago, and my coworker said, what, she was just smiling? What are you getting at her for? My boss said it looked like she was pulling a face, and my other coworker pulled out his phone where he had some pictures from a recent happy hour where I was pulling that face to make my coworkers laugh. And he said, dude, what the hell is wrong with you? That's literally her smile. Look at this picture from last Friday, and all of my coworkers backed him up, saying that was just how I smile. My boss was looking kinda incredulous, so I clarified that if something makes me spontaneously laugh or grin, it probably looks a little more relaxed, but when I'm just putting on a smile to be polite or pose for a picture, I guess that's how I smile. And I was trying to be polite after he let me know I was coming off harsh in meetings. Anyway, at my next one-on-one meeting, my boss said I didn't need to change my demeanor that much based on his comments, because honestly it was coming off disingenuous and that would look worse in front of clients. I just said, yeah, I guess I've never really been good at being super peppy without it looking fake. And as far as I know, that was the end of that. Except for it becoming a running joke at the office that I look like Nigel Thornberry, which is a pretty smashing nickname honestly. But I feel a little bad that I basically gaslit my boss and my coworkers were in on it instead of being direct with him and just saying that he was coming across a bit sexist. Am I the a-hole for my fake smile thing? You sound hilarious and your coworkers sound like the most incredible people on this planet. Not the a-hole, and thanks for bringing a smile to my own grouchy face. You're the a-hole. Sounds to me like he was giving professional feedback about how to build better rapport with clients. This is part of your job, no? And since you happen to be a woman, you took the opportunity to make it about the cliche of men telling women to smile more and make it sexist. Then you proceeded to make fun of him behind his back for it, with all of your coworkers. Then you took that same humiliation and do it to his face with your coworkers. Am I the a-hole for walking out of the dinner party my husband arranged for me because of what he said about my son? I lost my 15-year-old son Travis to cancer 2 years ago. His stepdad, my husband, had known and lived with him for 3 years of his life. When my son passed away, my husband arranged for 2 funerals, one in the town we live in and another in his hometown, and hosted a charity event in his memory. That reassured me that he adored Travis and saw him as his own. Now I recently found out that I'm pregnant with my first child with my husband. My husband was beyond thrilled. He hosted 2 dinner parties, one in our town and the other in his hometown with his family. We were staying at a hotel but spent some time with his family before dinner where we broke the news. At the restaurant, and while everyone was eating. My mother-in-law was talking about the baby and made a comment along the lines of, let's pray that my grandson will have similar traits to his stepbrother. She was referring to Travis, which was nice of her. My husband chuckled and said, well, I don't know, but I'm telling you that at least this one will be smart. I was baffled completely. I glanced at him and he still had a smile on his face like he didn't just insult my son. I was fuming inside. I apologized to my mother and father-in-law, then I said I was going back to the hotel. My husband asked what's wrong and I told him he just insulted my son, his stepson. He leaned back and insisted I sit back down because I was over-exaggerating, but I refused to listen and went back to the hotel. He came and blew up on me saying I embarrassed the frick out of him in front of his family by walking out of the second dinner he arranged for me to celebrate my pregnancy just because I took offense to him saying he expects his child to be smart. I replied that he insulted Travis's intelligence with his comment, but he said that his jab, or whatever I choose to call it, was directed at Travis' biological dad and his intelligence, but that still doesn't change the fact that he thought Travis was stupid. He said he had it with me and told me to get over myself. Then started basically stonewalling me. Am I overreacting? Did I have the right to get offended on my son's behalf? Not the a-hole. Your husband is a major a-hole. He claims he is doing everything to celebrate you, but it really seems like he keeps throwing these events to hype his own ego. What he said was completely uncalled for. What if you did in fact take it all out of context or misheard what was said in context? You are riding high on emotions considering the following has happened. Am I the a-hole for telling my neighbor to get over it when I wake her baby up? My garage is about 3 meters away from my neighbor's bedroom where their baby sleeps. I've got a roller door which beeps quietly 4 times within 20 seconds of me arriving home and pushing the button. It's so quiet that at times I can't hear it when sitting in the room adjacent to the garage when my partner comes home. Since my neighbor had her baby, I've made an effort to be more considerate of noise. Despite already soundproofing my rumpus room, I've stopped playing my drums after 6 p.m. I've also declined hosting friends outside in my backyard due to noise. I think I've been more than considerate, but apparently not. I get home from work at 11 p.m. and put my car in the garage. A couple weeks ago my neighbor approached me and asked if I could wait until the morning to put my car away, but I declined as there have been break-ins to cars on our street lately. My car is also one that is targeted by thieves a lot as parts are expensive, and it's an enthusiast's car. I apologized but was firm when telling her that I will not, under any circumstances, leave my car out overnight. I also know that they sleep with their window open that faces my garage, but I thought it would be weird to bring it up and suggest they close the window. I'm also confused, as I have an aftermarket exhaust on the car which is louder than the original but they have nothing to say about it. A couple nights ago I came home to her husband's car blocking my driveway just enough that I couldn't get my car through. It was kind of useless because I pushed the button before I even reached my driveway, so it beeped anyway. They didn't come out so I had their car towed and they haven't done it since. Today, Saturday, I decided to play my drums around lunchtime in my soundproofed rumpus room. You can only hear minimal vibration from the kick from the outside, but it's at the rear of my property and quite far away from any neighbors but they still had something to say. The wife came over and basically said she had put up with my noise for long enough and that she was exhausted due to the kid never sleeping, thanks to the noise I make. I was definitely still miffed about the driveway blocking situation from the other night and snapped a little, telling her that I'd been considerate enough and already made concessions in terms of noise. I said that while it's within my right to play music up until 10 p.m. in our council, I've cut myself off at 6 p.m. in consideration of her and her kid. I said that from now on she'll have to get over it because I was done catering to her and her family. Not the a-hole. It sounds like you've been very reasonable and you're allowed to live your life. They chose to have the baby. Surely they knew things might wake it up? I'm a mother to 3 kids. Have I cursed out our neighbor and his loud-ass motorbike that he just happens to start every time I was putting the baby down? Sure have. Never complained to him though. She's tired and cranky and looking for something to blame. If you want to make peace, buy them a white noise machine and be done with it. Nothing you're doing is inconsiderate or a nuisance. Am I the a-hole for saying my sister was being a terrible parent and feeding her daughter even after she told me not to? So recently my 22 male sister, 27 female, asked me to babysit her 5-year-old daughter for the day as her and her friends wanted to go out for the day. That was fine and I said yes as I was free for the day. However, when I came to her house, she told me that I wasn't allowed to give her lunch. I asked why and she told me it's setting habits for the future so her daughter can have a beautiful slender figure. She also said that it's part of her own beauty program where her daughter is not allowed to have lunch in a day because she doesn't want her to become overweight. I told her it was ridiculous to not allow a 5-year-old to have lunch. She just said whatever and left. About 3 hours after my sister had left, her daughter, let's call her Zoe, started saying she was very hungry. There was still around 2 to 3 hours until my sister came back so I gave Zoe an apple and made her a sandwich to keep her happy because it didn't feel right to leave her hungry like that. When my sister got back, I told her that Zoe was hungry so I gave her some food to eat and that I had only given her an apple and a sandwich. However, my sister was very irritated by this, and said that I knew what she had requested but that I was purposely not doing what I told you to do just because you want to wind me up. I told her that she was being a terrible parent by refusing to give her daughter lunch. This made my sister even more angry. She said that it was her parenting style and that she only wants the best for Zoe and that it was not your child so you have no say in this. Eventually she started shouting and made me leave. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. And please call Child Protective Services because this is absolutely child abuse. You're the a-hole, you haven't immediately called CPS and have left a child starving. Am I the a-hole for demanding my husband to apologize for ripping the picture my son drew just because he didn't include his stepbrother in it? I, female 33, have a son, 11, from my former relationship with my ex-husband. Currently I'm married to my husband, male 37, Joe, who has a 15-year-old son. My son isn't that close to his stepbrother for many reasons including age, interests, hobbies, etc. My son likes to draw a lot. His stepbrother tends to rip his drawings whenever they get into a fight. Now siblings and stepsiblings fight constantly, which is normal. What isn't normal is my stepson touching and ruining my son's drawings, which take time and effort and sometimes emotions. My stepson apologized every time he did it. And with the help of some boundaries I put in place, he no longer damages my son's drawings. I got my son a lock. Joe complained about me creating distance between the boys and suggested I should have let them resolve this between them. My son drew a picture of me, Joe, and him and showed it to us. Joe got extremely pissed when he saw it and started scolding my son for not including his stepbrother. I got involved and told him off, but he proceeded to rip up the picture in half, then into smaller and smaller pieces. My son started crying and I snapped and yelled at Joe asking what the hell was wrong with him. He told my son to go upstairs because he was punished and his punishment won't be cancelled till he starts including his stepbrother in his drawings. I told him to stop, but he told me stay out of it. You're the reason we're having this issue, and said that I made the boys resent each other by enabling my son's unjustified hatred for his stepbrother and setting boundaries. He kept air quoting this word, that shouldn't be set between brothers. I reminded him of what his son has done that caused my son to exclude him. Then told him that none of us, even myself, have the right to demand to be included in anything my son draws. It's his own thing and he gets the final say. I then demanded that he apologize to my son immediately. Joe sarcastically clapped and then said that if I keep this up, then my son will grow up too. Be antisocial and soft. I went upstairs, leaving him ranting about how this was basically my fault. I stayed with my son till he calmed down. Joe told me that by expecting him to apologize, I'm not treating him as a parent and undermining his word. If you don't draw a boundary around this and allow your son to continue to be abused by this man who is not his father and should not be allowed to punish in the first place, you will be TA. This is the hill to die on. Not the a-hole yet. You're the a-hole. Why are you letting him send your son upstairs for punishment over a drawing? You are at fault for not immediately telling your son he is not punished and that there will be no punishment. You are at fault for not immediately removing your son from that situation. You are at fault for marrying this obvious control freak. Mostly that man you married is the a-hole. Get a divorce. Don't stay in a relationship with a man who treats your child this way. This is certainly not the first time he has been abusive towards your child. Am I the a-hole for going off on my husband after seeing the texts he sent his mom, which constantly caused her to berate me? Alright. I'm going to be brief here. I have a 4-month-old daughter. Motherhood is obviously difficult, but with the pressure from people around me warning me not to mess up, it became too overwhelming. Whenever my daughter gets sick, I get a call from my mother-in-law, who's a medical professional, to point out what I did wrong, then berate and lecture me about it, although I do all I can. Days ago my daughter started having diaper rash. Mother-in-law called me and was furious. I still had no idea how she knew. My husband said he didn't see or call her for 2 weeks. I had an argument with her after she accused me of causing my daughter her diaper rash and also called me neglectful. Last night, when my husband and I were lying in bed, he wanted to show me something on his phone. As he scrolled through his texts, I caught a text that he sent to his mom around the time our daughter got sick. I looked at it and it said that I caused our daughter diaper rash and then neglected treatment. I was stunned. He saw the look on my face and wanted to retrieve the phone, but I took it and scrolled up and saw more texts from him, basically giving her details about every move I make regarding our daughter's care. I felt enraged and quite betrayed. I went off on him, told him he was out of line, tattling to his mom about my mess-ups and not only letting her but encouraging her to berate me and lecture me about my own daughter, which had worn my self-esteem down as a mother and caused me depression. He said I shouldn't have snooped on his private conversations with his mom and said that I needed this occasional guidance from his mom to make sure our daughter is in good health. I yelled at him and he called me crazy, then walked out to stay on the couch. Things have been pretty bad after that, and this morning he avoided me and refused to talk about it except to say that I overstepped by reacting with hostility. Not the a-hole. Postnatal depression is so real and so isolating. Your husband has been a giant a-hole. Instead of running to his own mommy, maybe he should focus on being a better father himself and helping out more where he can. The fact that he's gaslighting you and making this about your reaction as opposed to what he did to cause it is so typical. You didn't overstep. He overstepped by allowing, if not encouraging, his mother to berate and wear down the confidence of a new mom. So what he texted was true. You admitted these were your mess-ups? You need to focus on getting your mothering skills in order and taking all the guidance you can get rather than worrying about being embarrassed at mother-in-law knowing you're the a-hole.